Hi guys. So some of the things that I want to just talk to you guys a little bit about today is when you're creating your t-shirt graphics, the integration between image and type is very important. And I'm just going to go over a few sort of techniques that you can look at. I'm going to start by just telling you that when you're doing something like a t-shirt graphic, that is probably one of the few times in graphic design where you can be a little bit more expressive with your type. So, you could look at doing sort of retro fonts or, a little bit more descriptive fonts, and not such, as opposed to a lot of the type design that we'll be doing where it's fairly dry, clean fonts. T-shirt design is one of those things, and creating graphics in general are one of those things where you can have a little bit of leeway. So I just want to sort of show you, just go over a few different types. So, here's a very interesting sort of shape and a very simple vector graphic where they've just sort of found a nice space for the type underneath it. So again, here's a logo for an outfitter, where they've sort of created this sort of faux tin border around the graphic, which frames it really nicely, and then sort of have found a nice space to equally have the hierarchy the same as the actual illustration. Now here's one that really came up with a very sort of interesting graphic, very streamlined, and then added sort of decorative elements to the skull. But have a look how they've sort of put type in a circle. So that's basically what you're doing is you're drawing a circle, then you're using type on a line tool to create that. And what makes this work is that it's quite bold. It goes all the way around, but it still leaves white space around the skull, to understand what you're looking at. So here's one of a very sort of funky looking crab that is using, a very iconic approach, all one color, very nice symmetry. So the one thing to look at on here is look at how symmetrical, obviously a crab is symmetrical, but they've really played that up with the type. So a little bit of balance here and then the longboard. So again, this is drawing a circle, cutting the circle so that it gives you this arc, and then you're using type on a line, which when you go under the T for type, if you hold it down, you'll see that there's an icon there where it shows type on a line. So here's a fairly simple design that, in this case, again, this one uses a circle, cuts it into an arc, and then places the type above the main image. But then again, underneath sort of sandwiches it in. And so what it happens to do is it really creates a really nice sort of compact, very tight design. Now here's a very simple sort of one color graphic. And in this case, what is happening is the type itself is becoming the star. So it's just a bad day, not a bad life. And then the sort of bad day and bad life is hand rendered to make it look very shaky. And the whole sort of, the whole graphic itself has, elements of lines and stars and then the palm trees, but those are all sort of secondary elements that are used to create kind of a crest look to it. But yeah, very kind of interesting type approach. The other thing to really think about when you're doing your t-shirt graphics is not trying to be super literal. So not necessarily looking at trying to do illustrations of the artist, as opposed to things that you think can represent the artist, whether it's their style or feeling. And this one does a nice job of using sort of hand rendered type and keeping it sandwiching the illustration so it all works together. So here's a couple of examples of using type and then actually having it as part of the graphic and have that graphic work sort of above and around it. This is a great example of sort of using a distressed look where the type and the image sort of work seamlessly together. And again, basically a three-color t-shirt where they've really considered where the type falls, how it works with the image, and it works fairly seamlessly. So the choices, when you're doing your graphics are, do I be, am I really expressive with my type, or am I more expressive with my image? How does it all work together? You really want to try and consider when you're doing your thumbnails and your sketches, where the type is going to go, so you don't end up with just sort of a t-shirt where it's like an image and underneath is type that seems very disjointed. This was a really great Miles Davis graphic where the designer basically created a silhouette of Miles Davis and then knocked the information out of the actual silhouette. This is a really interesting sort of one color t-shirt for Johnny Cash that sort of takes that southern feel, where he grew up, uses very kind of old distorted type, but incorporates it in a really nice way. So you end up really with a simple graphic that anybody could actually design, but putting it together in a nice composition like that works very well. And along that theme, here is another one for Johnny Cash, where it actually takes one of his most sort of famous lyrics and places it inside a very sort of decorative cowboy boot with a floral pattern in behind it. All basically on this t-shirt is based on black and tan, so very doable and very iconic when you think about Johnny Cash and cowboy boots.